All right, guys. I've been going through ICT. I'm 3 lectures in. I think today is lecture 6, but I'll be able to do about 2 lectures today to be able to catch up a little bit. Um, so, I've been going through the ICT, like I said, and it's very interesting the things that he's talking about. Is there a lot of fluff in there? Of course. Are there a lot of nuggets in there? Yes, they are. But you have to be able to stay focused for 2.5 hours to listen through to everything. Um, and I can see why people get put off by that. Now, I think because we've been in it for so long, um, trading with ICT concepts, everything he's saying makes sense to us already. Now it's just a matter of the application of these concepts. For example, one that I really like to use, well, not really like to use, but have learned to start using is the inverse FEG. So you have change of state of delivery, inverse FEG, order blocks, all of which are fine. But you really find that today on price action on the 1 minute. Now ICT really and truly, well, he takes most of his entries on the 1 minute or on the 15 second. I'm not going down there. The 1 minute might be something feasible if it comes at the right time in order to trade. So let me kind of just go through today and what was present. So there are actually a couple of things. One, right now, if we look at where we are, we clearly swept some form of liquidity. We swept overnight liquidity. That's very apparent, right? This is London low, swept London low. After a sweep of liquidity, it's just base for us to look to see, okay, when do we get that change of state of delivery to go higher? When do we get the ISB failure, the SMB, anything of that sort for us to go higher, right? So when I go down to the 1 minute, to me, this is so very apparent. Um, and I can't unsee it now. And it's been happening very regularly for me. So what do we have, right? Um, there's 3 different entry criteria PD arrays going on right here. Let me delete this real quick. Delete this and delete this. So if we're doing strictly um, Oracle, right? We've got our type 1 here. We've got our ISB here. We have an ISB failure here, right? This is ISB. We push down, very significant reaction. We fail to close lower. We get our ISB failure here. Break above, we have this FEG. That's our first entry covering the low. So this would be our first entry, target, whatever you want to target. If you want to target these highs, let's just target these highs to stay consistent. Um, so that's 3.2R, right? Fantastic. So let me delete all this. The next thing you can see is um, something called a change of state of delivery. So what we have here is this, right? Once price closes above, we're now activated, or more literally once price wicks above. But I personally like to use the closes because bodies tell the story, wicks do the damage. Once we get that close above, um, you can enter market pretty much from here, and you'd be able to cover this ISP low. I understand this is an ISP low. Very simple. But the third one, the one I really like the most, is the changes. Not change. Sorry, the inverse FEG. So essentially, what that is when we're coming into an area of liquidity, right, which would be these lows here, which is the London lows. All right. So let me do this. Uh, LND lows. All right, along bottom right. There we go. Let me put this in red also since it is liquidity. Boom. Okay. So once you come into London lows, there are two things we're looking for. One is some form of reversal pattern, all right, which we don't get until over here, right? But once the liquidity is taken, now it's our job to figure out what that is. So how I like to use inverse FEGs based off of how ICT says it is you on an FEG like this, and this does not qualify, this would not qualify as an inverse FEG because you need to close above the FEG. So this is just us respecting the FEG as normal. But where it comes into being a inverse FEG is after we have that sweep of liquidity, we have our FEG like so, right? Have our FEG like so. Price closes above on this candle. That bigger. Price closes above on this candle. And once you get that close, that's our indication that we should be good to get in. Boom. Cover. In this particular case, you should be able to cover these lows, that wick low. Price should not come back below here, and that's the last low that kind of swept it out. So, oops, should be good there. And we will be targeting, just for instance, for the same high here. So 3.25, basically the same thing. But what I'm saying is there are three different entries here for this particular trade. And the one that I personally like the most, understanding what it actually is, would be the inverse FEG. So we would, well, not we, but I would use this as my manipulation range. So it's very clear on the 5 minute. 5 minute, you can see this high, put in that last low, very clear, very easy. Take the trade off of the highlight that, move over. That's your entry. Target the 2 standard Ds, really and truly the 4, but for this case, we'll use the 2 standard Ds. And that is essentially the trade, 4.4R, just like that, boom, and you're done for the day, probably. But I mean, this is very easily, you can take this to the 4 standard deviations, no issue. It's just that it's Monday. I wouldn't really take it on a Monday. I mean, you could. Tuesday is probably a better day to take it. Or in this week particularly, it would probably be better to take it off whatever CPI does. If CPI does manipulate, use the CPI manipulation, then trade it accordingly. So yeah, that's essentially what I kind of wanted to drop in here today. Is a kind of journal kind of piece to understanding what it is that we're looking for. And ICT, man, ICT is a very interesting guy from the 3 lectures I've finished so far. And I think he's really dumbing it down to a level where all of us should be able to understand it, since we have been trading the concepts or various concepts for so long. Also, you don't need to know every single ICT concept, right? They're 81 PD arrays apparently. There's no way a normal person should be knowing 81. You're just gonna fuck yourself up. But that's why I'm still using my own trading trading style, but I'm taking little nuggets from here and little nuggets from there. For example, this inverse FEG. This is in the first lecture. I haven't learned, I'm not saying learned. I'm not taking anything from lecture 2 or lecture 3 as of right now, just because it's not needed and it's not relevant for me and how I like to trade. So yeah, guys, that was pretty much it.